Hey, what's up guys, Rep here. So today we have another round of localizer related drama to cover because localizers have been going fully mask off over the past couple of days and have even gone as far as to blame supposed weebs for their own mistranslations and the fact that their jobs are currently being threatened by AI. Now that's a set of topics we covered in this YouTube video about 2 days ago, and to sum up that video in about 30 seconds for context, the recent edition of the English release of Ancient Magus' Bride manga came out with AI translations, and a lot of localizers were upset about this, and they were threatened by AI because it might actually replace their jobs, where a lot of people responded to that by saying, you reap what you sow, because for decades, localizers have been abusing their position of trust and authority as translators to insert random political messages and Gen Z humor into their translations of anime and manga, where it was completely inappropriate. And this image really sums up a lot of the responses where people can recognize that AI translations are not ideal, while also saying, we're not going to feel sorry for localizers who might lose their jobs to AI, because for a long time they've been abusing their position as a translator for their own selfish reasons. Now that's where we were 2 days ago. In the time that has passed, things have evolved, okay? The coping and seething from localizers has gotten much worse. They are now coming out with multiple strings of logic that they're using to their defense. Number one, they're saying that if you have a problem with localizations, you should simply learn Japanese. And until you do, you can't criticize their translations. And then when that didn't work, they went as far as to say that anyone who's criticizing their translations is an alt-right Nazi weeb. Yes, I wish I was exaggerating, but I am not. So let's start off with this tweet right here. It says, people who aren't multilingual just should not talk about translation. Literally impossible to have an informed opinion. 3 years of language class in high school isn't multilingual. Now, I have a good metaphor for this situation that I think applies really well. So if you go to a restaurant, right, and you order a steak medium rare, you don't have to be a chef to understand that the cook messed up when that steak comes back charred to a crisp. Just like if you look at localization of anime and manga, you don't need to speak Japanese to know things like this are garbage. Translations like this and localizations like this are garbage, and you don't have to speak Japanese to recognize that. And a lot of people have been responding to this user saying, 15 years of anime translation and subtitling. Just because languages do not translate and conjugate one-to-one and some cultural references fall flat, doesn't mean you need to fill a script with Chungus Among Us Riz Skibidi Toilet. And that's really, I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it does hold true. A lot of these things that these localizers are fighting for are completely useless translations and insertions of Gen Z humor that don't do anything. They don't provide any sort of benefit to the translation. And you can see some localizers fighting for this exact point. This localizer saying, and yes, sometimes that means using yeet, sus, incel, etc. Yes, memes like this are becoming a reality. Localizers really are fighting for that sort of language in their translations. And of course, after they said this, they would private their account, just like a lot of localizers have done in this situation. But moving forward, here's another localizer with their hot take on this situation that would get mocked into oblivion. They say, the amount of angry weebs still mad at translators and localizers disrespecting the source material when bro can't even read the source material. Ooh, what a burn. Except this is totally tone deaf and you're mocking your own audience. So here's some of the replies. This one ratioing them saying, enjoy losing your job to AI. Nothing of value will be lost. Yeah, do you guys see why it's hard to feel bad for localizers losing their jobs to AI when they're mocking their own consumers? Here's another reply saying, you can read the source material and still can't do your job. Oof. Here is a tweet with a picture of those replies saying, imagine how awful the localization is that someone who can't even speak the language can tell the translation is inaccurate, with 6,000 likes on this tweet. Absolutely brutal. And it just goes to messages like this. Localizers saying things like, how can you know the translation is inaccurate if you don't know Japanese? And you see examples of localization saying things like bruh moment. Like, it's very obvious that these things are not correct translations, and basically these localizers are taking advantage of their position of trust and authority to add these in. For what reason? Nobody knows. Maybe it's just a power trip. That's probably what a lot of this is. But anyways, this person, of course, has me blocked. Just like virtually every single one of these localizers has me on Twitter. I'm blocked by basically all of them. And I bring this up because here's another localizer who has me blocked. And there's going to be a reason for this. And, just wait a minute and you'll see why. So this person was actually included in the last video where they were dismissing criticism of bad localizations as people being afraid of the presence of gay characters in a story. And that these people don't care about accuracy in translations. It's more that they have a certain worldview. And of course, this is a pancakes, waffles situation where this is not what they're saying. And this is just a complete goalpost shift to a narrative that never really happened. But they would go on to fight people in the replies. So recently, a user came forward with examples of bad localizations. And their response was, holy shit, your examples are already discussed Dragon Maid BS and the effing Shaman King manga from 1998. Now, I think these examples are very valid. And the fact that some of them are older only proves how pervasive this problem is. This issue with bad localizations is not a new one. It's one that's been going on for decades. It's become normalized within the localization scene. They say this publicly. They say things like they want to see how much they can get away with before they get caught. So that's a good example showing that this has happened over a long period of time. And these are examples. If you want examples of people spotting bad localizations and someone shows you, you can't just dismiss it. And as you can see, when they're arguing with these accounts, they'll post screenshots of those users blocking them, which is a very obvious tactic that they're doing. So they go after these small accounts for a reason. They know that these smaller accounts like this one that has, I believe, less than 100 followers, because they know a lot of people aren't going to come to their defense. And instead of arguing with accounts like me that are larger, they block me to avoid any sort of criticism from a larger account with a larger follower base that will go to their tweets and criticize them. And I think it's a very obvious form of deflection. They're trying to keep within their echo chamber and only go after small targets they know they can gang up on very fast, because a lot of these localizers have tens of thousands of followers. Well, before I left their account, I saw that they retweeted this banger. It says, check the timeline of every one of the angry weebs in my mentions, and you'll find virulent racism, homophobia, and trans hate. That should tell you something. Oh boy, the goalpost shift, ladies and gentlemen. You might recognize this Jay Allen person. So they are the person behind the Unseen Japan account. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this at some point because this account is an L factory when it comes to takes involving anime, manga, and Japanese culture. Now, they would make this absolutely scorching hot take shortly after saying, anyway, it's clear that woke localizers is based on maybe 5% actual translation errors, generous, and 95% right-wingers pushing a fascist agenda of erasure. Liberalism exists in Japan, feminism exists in Japan, queerness exists in Japan. Deal with it. Deal with it. Yeah, of course, what's the message here? Fellas, is it fascism to want proper translations in anime and manga? Like, yeah, this is a goofy tweet and a lot of people are making fun of it. And recognizing this account, I quoted them with this saying, this is the same guy who was mocked on Japanese television after he tried to shut down a blood drive because it used a smug picture of Uzaki-chan. Yes, this actually happened back in 2019. Unseen Japan was very upset about a Red Cross blood drive that featured this image of Uzaki-chan. Unseen Japan saw this picture of a fully clothed anime girl and went, humana, 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 humana. Oh god, it's so overly sexualized. It's literally just a smug picture of Uzaki-chan. And to his horror, he was mocked on live Japanese television by a program he admits he likes because they knew how ridiculous this whole effort was on his behalf. And it was absolutely hilarious to see this happen back in 2019. But he would make some more tweets, and before we get to those, people would mock this whole situation because, guys, this is not about fascism and all this sort of stuff they're trying to say. It's all about translations. That's all this is. People just want a proper translation. This isn't some alt-right plan. This isn't some conspiracy. It's just about getting proper translations. So they would also go on to say, we steal your copyrighted works all the time isn't something I'd brag about, but you do you suppose. And you might recognize this localizer from earlier in the video. They're basically calling anyone complaining about bad localizations Karens, and that they should just make the translations themselves if they know so much about Japanese culture, where this user says, well, this is why people pirate these sorts of things. And yeah, as this user would respond, there's a very simple response to what they're saying. They wouldn't have to do it if the official translators did their job properly, and the fans are willing to buy products if they are good quality. And that goes back to the classic anti-piracy tactic. If you don't want people to pirate your content, make good content. It's as simple as that. But they would go on to say another tweet saying, this is the crux of the issue. People don't understand what translation is. Translation's goal is to make another language comprehensible in the target language. If you want to know how Japanese people talk, learn freaking Japanese. And then they would make another tweet saying, damn, me posting in Japanese really pisses off the fascists. Think I'll do it more often. You know he typed this tweet, hit sent tweet, and then immediately huffed his own farts. Like, this guy is so full of himself, it's actually hilarious. But moving on, I want to close this video with one last little interaction. So you can see a string of conversation here, basically people talking about localizations and how they understand that things can't be one-to-one translated in every situation, but they just don't want irrelevant jokes and things like that inserted into localizations. Where a localizer would respond with this. I've had to take matters into my own hands with some pretty sexist jokes, not even coming from villains or characters already set up as terrible, and I don't regret it. A lot of text is written by 50-year-old men, and you get some dust in there, it helps no one to keep it. Now, the response to this tweet is refreshing. 103 quotes versus 5 likes. This is a real localizer, by the way, one that is self-admitted in their bio, and this really sums up this whole situation. Localizers and their supporters have gone fully mask off. They will not accept any criticism. They will literally die on this hill, even if it means they're going to be replaced by AI because they can't provide professional translations in their works. But you know what? As always, you reap what you sow. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please share all of your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.